My talk title today is No Destination is Better Than Now. And I really wanted to share with you all just the importance and the powerful place that is the present moment and how to kind of be in that place in a safe and also as comfortable as possible way. So I know for all of us here in this room, including myself, the idea of being present has been hammered into our heads, right? Be present, be mindful. You're missing your life if you're not present. And I've been on a declared spiritual path for probably about 20 years now at this point, where I started doing meditation and yoga. And I will say, in all of my years of practicing presence and all of those things that help us be present, it hasn't been really until the last couple of years that I've really settled into what it means to be present and really settled into the benefits of being present. And so I feel like I have this kind of newfound wisdom to share from some of what's taken place the last couple years for me personally. I am someone who most would define as future-oriented. I love to plan. I love to control. I love to budget. I love to calculate. I love to measure. And that's very much a part of my human expression, and I'm not going to completely abandon that, so to say. But in all that planning and budgeting and calculating, there was also a part of me for many years that was desperately searching for healing and happiness. And all of that planning wasn't doing it for me. So I just wanted to share that, all of the programs and tools and licenses and degrees and certificates that we can come by throughout our lives give a lot to us. They add a lot to our quality of life. They add a lot to the human experience. But the things that elude us, that our soul is yearning for, those things we can't plan to get. We can't finish a program and then it's handed over to us. We can't obtain a degree and then we get it. And if we do have the sense of what we're looking for a moment, it's somewhat fleeting, right? Unless we learn how to be here now. Those things that elude us are only realized in a lasting way now. I want to share a story that I came across this week. It's called Peter and the Golden Thread. It was written by Robin Sharma. So when Peter was a young boy, he had a very hard time being in the present moment. When he was in school, he always wanted to be outside playing. Once he got outside, a few moments later, he wanted to go on his summer vacation. When his summer vacation was happening, he missed his friends back home. So as you can see, Peter really had a tough time being present. One day, Peter was out walking in a forest, and he decided to take a nap. And when he woke up, he heard a voice calling his name, Peter, Peter. And as he awoke, he saw this woman who seemed to be about 100 years old, beautiful white hair that almost was like a wool blanket dangling down. And in her hand, she had this magic little ball. And in the center of the ball was a golden thread sticking out of the hole. Peter, she said, this is the thread of your life. If you pull the thread just a bit, an hour will pass in seconds. And if you pull with all your might, months will pass, even years, in just days. Peter was so excited about this new discovery, and he said, I'd like to have it if I may. So the elderly woman quickly reached down and gave the ball to Peter. And the next day, Peter was in school, and he was feeling kind of restless and bored, and he remembered his magic ball. So he took it out very secretly, and he pulled it just a little bit. And all of a sudden, he was out playing in the garden. And so a few days went by, a little time went by, and Peter was tired of being a schoolboy, and he really wanted to be a teenager and experience all the exciting things that teenagers experience. So he pulled a little harder this time, and he was a teenager. And he had this really awesome girlfriend named Elise, and really thought she was great. And then after some time went by, he said, I want to see what happens with Elise, and I want to see what happens. I want to be an adult. I want to make money, right? So he pulls really hard, and then he's middle-aged, and he's married to Elise, and they have a house full of kids. But he also noticed something else. His once jet black hair had a little silver in it, and his young and radiant mother was old and frail. But still, Peter really couldn't be there, and he wanted to find out what was going to happen, so he pulled even harder. And then he was a 90-year-old man, and his thick hair had turned to white snow, and his beautiful wife, Elise, had passed away a few years earlier. His mom had passed, and his house full of kids had grown up to live lives of their own. And for the first time in his entire life, Peter realized that he had not taken the time to embrace the wonders of living. He had never gone fishing with his kids. He'd never taken a moonlight stroll with Elise. He had never planted a garden. He had never read the stories his mother read to him and shared them with his kids. And Peter became overcome with grief at this discovery. So he decided to walk in the forest to warm his spirits and to find a sense of peace, and he dozed off. And he awoke again to the older woman calling his name. "Peter, Peter," she cried, and he looked up in astonishment to see that same old woman that gave him the magic ball all those years ago. And she asked him, "How have you enjoyed my gift?" "At first it was fun," he said, "but now I hate it. My whole life has passed before my eyes without giving me the chance to enjoy it. Sure, there would have been sad times, but also great times. But I haven't had the chance to experience either. I feel empty inside. I've missed the gift of living." "You are very ungrateful," said the old woman. "But still, I will give you a wish." Peter quickly responded, and he wished to go back to the days when he was a schoolboy and live his whole life over again. Soon after, Peter fell into a deep sleep, and when he awoke, he heard a woman calling his name again. But this time he looked up, and it was his mother, and she looked young and healthy and vibrant. And Peter realized that the strange woman in the forest had indeed granted his wish. "Hurry up," his mother said. "You sleep too much. Your dreams will make you late for school if you don't get up right this minute." Needless to say, Peter dashed right up, and he went on to live a full life, presently, here and now. I wanted to share this story with you because I don't know about how you're feeling after hearing that story, but I teared up a little bit, and I actually really identified a lot with Peter. And me being a mom of young children, it's been really important to me to try to slow down and savor the moment because I watch how fast they grow. I feel like just yesterday I had my first son and he's 6. I can't believe he's 6. You know, it goes really fast. So it's a reminder and a blessing to me to slow down and savor the moment. And I want to empower everyone here today to find whatever it is that's eluding you and to be able to tap into the present moment and find the things that we often are searching for. Maybe for you, it's abundance in finances. Maybe for you, it's freedom. Maybe for you, it's a romantic love, a romantic partner. Maybe for you, it's a sense of peace. But whatever it is, the lasting version of it can only be found now. And it's always waiting for you now. In this quote by Eckhart Tolle, he says, "Most humans are never fully present in the now because unconsciously they believe that the next moment must be more important than this one. But then you miss your whole life, which is never not now. And that's a revelation for some people, to realize that your life is only ever now." So I'll say that again. Your life is only ever now. Because what our soul is longing for, what we really want, is to feel free, to feel love, and to feel peace. And those feelings come when we orient ourselves to now. It's an inherent experience, but it's on the other side of our worry, our anger, our grief, our sadness, our jealousy, our panic, all the other things that we experience as human beings. And these things, anger, sadness, all of them are incredibly important. They're a valid and rightful part of the human experience. And that is why we actually can't feel the freedom and the love and the peace that we're looking for without acknowledging them and holding them in the light. This is the key to true healing, and this is the key to spiritual transformation. If we have denied or been taught to deny part of the human experience, that which we have denied needs to be held in the light now before we can find what we're really looking for. This is obviously very challenging, or we would see people all over the world who had strong meditation practices, who were actively listening when you talk to them, who weren't rushing their children out of the house because they're going to be late. I mean, this is the world we would live in if this was easy, okay? And it's obviously not for a lot of reasons. And so what I want to talk about today is how to make this easier. And I want to give you tools today to help the process of orienting ourselves to now feel doable for you. So in my mind, the sensations that come up in our body, which are sensations of, like I mentioned before, anger, worry. Sometimes it can just be minor frustration. We can feel a bit off sometimes and not even know why. But I want to break it down to sensations rather than categorizing feelings. Because this, to me, is the first barrier. It's one of two very important barriers that I'm going to go over today. It's one barrier to being able to orient ourselves to now. And that is when we start to get hung up on this is sadness, this is anger, this is this is that, this is that. And then the story, this is the second barrier, the story comes in to perpetuate whatever those feelings are. And the way that this looks to me is if we are angry, we set our boundaries. If we are sad, we express our sadness, we cry. And if we are worried, we might need to express a concern or set a boundary. Like, these things still happen. We don't stop doing these things, okay? But in tandem with those things, this is the part that we often miss as human beings. In tandem with those things, we have an active, easy practice, gentle practice of dropping the story for a moment, dropping the categorization of the sensations in our body, and learning to hold space for them. Hold space is a fancy, popular word these days, right? We hear it everywhere. I'm holding space for you. I'm holding space for that. I'm holding space for this. But a lot of times I don't know if anybody really, I know some people do through experience, but it's an experiential thing. So I'm not sure if a lot of us know what it means when we're saying, I'm holding the light, I'm holding space. So I want to break it down a little bit today, because this is exactly what this talk is calling us to do. This talk is calling us to be able to hold space for those sensations that come up in our bodies so that we can orient ourselves to right now, so that we can experience the freedom, the love, the peace, the joy that we are looking for in a more lasting way. Holding space to me is the ability to hold difficult and pleasant sensations in our body in pure consciousness. Now, what I mean by pure consciousness is some people refer to it as the observer mode, right? Through a place of what we would say equanimity, and if that word is unfamiliar to you, a place of neutrality. Being able to hold our sensations without a story and without judgment. And when they are held in this space, this is the way that the energy of the sensations that we experience, this is the way that they integrate. And this is the way that we become whole. We're always whole, but this is the way we realize our wholeness. I should say that differently. And this is the way that we come into the qualities of the divine: love, peace, freedom, joy. This is also what is meant by acceptance. So when you hear people on a spiritual path tell you about the power of acceptance, this can be kind of triggering sometimes. Oh, what do I have to accept? I don't want to accept this, or I don't want to accept that. And there's plenty of things in this world that are tough to accept right now, right? But the power of acceptance isn't about accepting conditions in the world or circumstances in our lives. The power of acceptance is about accepting the sensations in our body, the internal reality that's happening every day within us. Kyle Cease said, "One of the most powerful things you have is the ability to accept something. Accepting something doesn't mean living passively with it. Accepting something can also mean you're bringing something to light." And this is the real power of what we would call holding space, holding the light, bringing something to light, acceptance. The real power of that is that it's not calling us into passivity. It's calling us into our sensations, our energy, our bodies, the things that we were denied as children and possibly through ancestral lines, the things that we were denied and shamed for. This quote is calling us to allow them, to permit them, so that we can orient ourselves to right here and right now. Turning to the light does not mean that we deny pain, and it does not mean that we deny darkness. It is exactly the opposite. What it means is that we become the light, we become the observer, we become pure consciousness so that we can shine that awareness down on the darkness, down on the pain, and hold it in the truest part of ourselves. This is the power of now. This is how we integrate our past, and this is how we uncover our inherent freedom and joy and love and peace. It is by holding those parts of us that we were taught to deny and permitting them. So I want to go over a couple how-tos now, because that's really the point of this talk today. So I talked about the two barriers. One is the story that we tell ourselves about what's happening in our bodies and who caused it and what they did to us. And the other, and sometimes even the story about ourselves and how we caused it, right? It's not always about other people. And the other barrier is the emotions that are difficult to be with, the feelings, the sensations that are difficult to be with. So I want to start first with the story. I work a lot with clients who have trauma. I'm a trauma-informed specialist, so to say, and so I'm trained in trauma-informed care. And so when I work with clients around trauma, one of the things that I always say, the key phrase that I always say to help people get from the story into the sensations is this one right here. There is an energy in my body that wants to be experienced. So sometimes, if we can't get out of our thoughts, what's really helpful is shifting our thought to something that's true. So instead of telling ourselves all the different things that perpetuate the sensation and don't ever actually really help that sensation integrate, if we tell ourselves something more true about what's happening, then we can be present to it. So this is step one here, is to shift from the stories to the energy, to the energetic sensations in the body. And we can do that by saying, again, there is an energy in my body that wants to be experienced. And you can say this as many times as you need to. If you notice you're back up in a story again, just gently remind yourself there's an energy in my body that wants to be experienced. Now, the other barrier that I want to address is how hard it can be to sit with some of these emotions and feelings and sensations. I want to first say, being someone who is trauma-informed and who works with people who have trauma, I will say, and someone who's had trauma in her past and has done a lot of work around it myself, I will say that if you are somebody who has a lot of trauma in your past, or you're somebody who you're prone to panic attacks and things of that nature, please work with somebody to help you go through the steps that I'm telling you today, to do it in a guided fashion. Please have somebody guide you through the process. This can be difficult to do on your own if you've had a lot of trauma or you're someone who has panic attacks. And I'm happy to chat with anyone afterwards more about that. So please come see me. So the first thing to do is when we notice that we have an unpleasant feeling, and I know for me these days, the typical unpleasant feeling that I feel first is that I feel a sense of worry that I am going to be late for something. That's a very common thing in my house. I have 2 kids who are constantly like little forces working against me to be on time. So I'm constantly like, where are your shoes? Where are your socks? And then it's like a whole song and dance of, well, I want to bring this in the car. I wanted to wear this. So you can only imagine how often I'm on time. It's not very often. So I feel like there's the biggest one that's up for me right now is this feeling of like, I have to be on time. I've got it. And I'm working against these beautiful beings who are trying to draw me into the present moment, right? So for me, that's the most common one these days. So for you in your life, you can take a moment and think about what that is. What's coming up? There's a lot in the world that's triggering right now, right? Oh my goodness. So you can take a look at what that is for you. There's a lot of things going on right now that's triggering anger, grief, sadness. And so when you feel these little twinges come up and you have the space, set a timer on your phone for 1 to 2 minutes, whatever you think you can handle. Pull your phone out, 1 minute. Once that timer's set, there's an energy in my body that wants to be experienced. Put your hand on your heart. Rev Shannon so beautifully last week in her talk was saying to bless yourself, putting your hand on your heart. So this is, you're blessing yourself through this process. So put your hand on your heart. You've got that 1 minute timer going. There's an energy in my body that wants to be experienced. Rock your body back and forth. This is a very soothing motion. And what it does is it helps trigger the parasympathetic nervous system so that you're in a better space to be able to hold the light for whatever it is that you're feeling. Rock back and forth, hand on the heart, deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, I allow this sensation to be here. Deep breath in. Exhale, I allow this sensation to be here. Rocking back and forth just for a minute or 2. When you allow the sensation to be there, you are holding space. This is what it means to hold space. When you allow the sensation to be there, here, now, you are holding the light. You are in pure consciousness. So if you're someone out there right now who's listening to this talk and you're like, I can't do the pure consciousness thing. I can't snap into observer mode. I can't do it. Yes, you can. If I can do it, you all can do it. When I started meditating, oh my goodness, I felt like I was crawling out of my skin. I was like, get me out of this experience. And I could barely do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And so what it takes to hold something in the observer mode, what it takes to have equanimity is 1 second of I allow this sensation to be in my body. It's really that simple. And then when your timer's up, give yourself a little bit of love, look around your room, and redirect yourself to something else. Go have a bite to eat, watch your favorite show, talk to a loved one, pet your animal, take your animal for a walk. Whatever it is, redirect. So these feelings that are really tough for us, if we just for 1 minute permit it and practice permitting it, over time, these minutes turn into miracles of spiritual transformation and healing. And I'm living proof of that. So I want to invite you this week when you feel an unpleasant sensation, whether it's sadness or anger, again, jealousy, worry, any of these things. Hand on your heart. There's an energy in my body that wants to be experienced. Set your timer. 1 to 2 minutes. Deep breath in. Exhale. I allow this sensation to be here. Rock your body. The most miraculous changes will occur if you make this a regular habit. Because only now do we have the power to awaken. Only now do we have the power to heal and to change our life experience. We don't have that power off in our minds in the future when we finish the next program or degree or workshop or training. We have it now. And so I want to empower you all because this world desperately needs more people who are willing to face the totality of the human experience. This world also desperately needs people who are willing to set boundaries and take action, and that's all a different talk. But I want to just bring that up because that's all important too. But this talk is about the working in tandem with that and having a space carved out for yourself regularly, whether it's a full-on hour meditation or it's 1 minute. Full-on space of equanimity, of neutrality, observer mode, pure consciousness. Everything that eludes you will find you when you learn to do this work. Miracles will happen. And you won't need your golden thread to hop to the next moment. You'll be able to live fully now.
Hi, friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this message supported you. We are a nonprofit, and we do all of this based solely on the gifts that you give. No amount is too small or too large. You can text to give. You can go online and check out our website. We're doing so much. You can give that way. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of this community, and for supporting this message of bringing more light, more love, and spirit-led social action out into the world. Thank you. You're loved. So loved.